Great. Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. And yeah, so many people here. Thanks so much for taking the time to be with us today. This is the fourth webinar in our series for the National Nuclear Strategic Plan for Skills, or perhaps more easily put, the Nuclear Skills Plan. Today's spotlight, however, will be on regional hubs, and we've got an hour today, packed agenda, lots of people here to speak to you, and a lot to cover. So yeah, again, thank you for joining us. So the purpose of today's session is to share with you what we're doing in the skills plan, specifically around the hub initiative. Make you aware of what the initiative is, what we're currently doing in that space, where it's going, and probably crucially, how you will engage with it or will engage with us. So a bit on the agenda then. I'm going to start. I'm going to give us some background and some context around the skills plan and around the agenda, around the initiative specifically. And then I'm going to hand over to colleagues who lead our 4 active regional hubs, and we'll go around one at a time so you can hear about what's happening in the different regions. So kicking us off then, as Hannah said at the start, I'm Dan Hall. I'm one of the programme leads assigned to the Nuclear Skills Plan. I have been assigned on a secondment basis since June of last year, and I'm here as part of the team delivering the programme. I have a couple of projects within it that I lead, as well as the establishing our programme management office, but one of which, of course, is regional hubs, and that's our focus for today. So yep, thank you, Hannah. Straight onto that. That's the right slide. Thank you. So I'll take us back a little bit initially and just do a bit of context setting. So the skills plan was launched in May 2024, and it's intended to meet the skills requirements for our national ambitions, our significant national ambitions around clean energy, energy security, net zero, and defence. And when the report was pulled together, it's calculated that in our sector currently, in the nuclear sector currently, there was, or at 2023 actually to be precise, there was 83,000 people. But to meet those ambitions across clean energy and defence, we needed a further 40,000. So that's a 40,000 net, that's additional people to join the sector by the end of the decade in 2030. Thanks on here. So to do that, there's a big focus on early careers and a requirement to sort of significantly increase the number of apprentices and graduates starting a career in the sector, as well as encouraging people and promoting nuclear as a positive industry to move into mid-career. You can see on the end there, we have a significant challenge around an ageing workforce and a high percentage of people potentially leaving the sector over the next 10 years through retirement or other reasons. And it's vital that now we invest in gathering that knowledge and experience within the workforce as things develop and as unfortunately we lose those people. So we can move on to the next slide, Hannah. Thank you. So accompanying the skills plan is a nuclear skills charter, and this is sort of a blurb taken from it. There's a bit more behind this, but the charter is the commitment that has been made by industry organisations. You'll see a bit more about that in a moment, from across both defence and civil nuclear, public and private organisations who have come together to prioritise this challenge and to prioritise skills. So the charter really marks a step change in collaboration and a formal recognition of the focus placed on delivering the plan. Through the charter, organisations have committed to provide resources, of which I'm one of those, to provide support through prioritising the plan, and crucially as well, provide funding. So a real different approach in the sector work coming together to meet this challenge. Yeah, next one, Hannah, thanks. Bit around the governance of the programme now. So this slide talks to the sort of core leadership of the programme, which is the Nuclear Skills Executive Council, or the NSEC. So that's the chief executive officers from member organisations who are the key strategic guidance and direction for the plan. And as you can see on this slide, the programme is sponsored by 2 government departments, the Ministry of Defence and the Department for Energy Security and Net Zero, which really reflects the collaborative approach of the programme, both in terms of supporting civil and defence nuclear needs and aspirations. So next one, please, Hannah. The next slide shows you the member organisations, and as I've already said, this highlights the real mixture that we have in terms of prime industry suppliers, government organisations from across both civil and defence nuclear, who have come together, signed the charter, and are committed to delivering this programme. And if we just pop on to the next one, the representatives from those organisations come together on a bi-monthly basis to provide the steering and direction for the programme through what we describe as the Nuclear Skills Delivery Board. Underpinning that is the central team, if you like, of which I'm part of, which is the Nuclear Sector Skills Team, and that's a collaborative group of secondees from different member organisations who've come into this team on a sort of temporary basis to mobilise and deliver the plan. So that's how we're structured. Now I'm just going to go into a bit more detail about what the Regional Hubs initiative is specifically about. And if we just pop on to the next one, Hannah. So and indeed what the plan is. So the Nuclear Skills Plan has within it 15 different work streams, 15 different projects. I'm not going to talk about all of them just now, but I will call out a few. But they're all focused on meeting that target, 40,000 new joiners to the sector by the end of the decade. And that's around attracting, retaining people, developing our people, and mobilising people across the sector, as well as diversifying the workforce. So just to take a couple of examples from this page, you can see then on the top left is our national comms campaign. That's Destination Nuclear, puts as it's named. And if you haven't heard of Destination Nuclear, I would encourage you to search for that online. Join the conversation on your social media accounts, and you can see and understand more about the direction of travel and how the programme is being promoted. We've got projects here around investing in people at different stages of careers and funding being available around the sponsorships and bursary schemes, as well as PhDs. There's projects looking at developing up the people that already work in the sector and providing sector moves with the Interchange project, and strengthening collaboration in leadership roles and the power of diversity across those leadership positions. We've also got projects focusing on working with training providers and optimising the training landscape, career profiles and progression. But today I'm going to focus on one of those projects, and it's important to point out that Regional Hubs is one of the 15, but is indeed a key enabler for the delivery of many others. And you'll hear more about that, I hope, as we go through the presentations. So next one, I think, Kenny. Yeah, so this is my final slide before I hand over. And a bit more context around the regional hubs then. So we've got 4 established regional hubs. But it's important, just before I go into that what the hubs are all about. And they're here to enable, effectively, as I said before, enable the delivery of the skills plan. They accelerate delivery of the different projects within it, provide greater awareness and understanding of the specific regional skill variances and challenges, and it helps to tailor the national plan to support and enable the delivery of that where it matters in the regions and with the specific businesses where these people are working. Hubs aren't bound by a specific location or site necessarily, although they're based, of course, within a region. But they are a collective of organisations that come together to support the skills agenda in those areas. As I said, we've got 4 active hubs in the northwest and the southwest of England and in the Midlands, as well as in Scotland, and they're at different stages of maturity, and you'll hear about that as we go through the different presentations from the different leads. I lead what's known as the Regional Hub Coordination Group. So just to mention what that's about, that's a group of where we come together as the leads and joined up to the national plan and discuss what's happening in the region, learning from each other, understanding what's been a success and what hasn't, building the network and the stakeholder engagement, and, as I mentioned, influencing or supporting the development of the plan nationally. Finally, I just want to mention that we're very mindful that there are many other collaborations around different parts of the UK that focus on skills, or indeed focus on nuclear, or both. And the National Skills Plan and the regional hubs as part of it are absolutely not there to impact on anything that's happening through those arrangements already, but rather to build awareness and to work collaboratively for mutual benefit. And that's very much a part of today's webinar, is about reaching out to you, and I know many representatives of those groups are on the call today, to understand how we can work together and start that conversation. So I'll hand over now, and we're going to start with Scotland Hub, and I think I'm going to hand over to Heather. Heather, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for giving Scotland the opportunity to talk about the Emergent Hub. We are in the early stages. So I'm Heather Hannam. I am the people lead for the Dounreay decommissioning site in the very far north, and I am lucky to co-chair the Scotland Hub with Debbie.
Hi everybody, I'm Debbie Jones and I am the Nuclear Skills Director for Babcock and Cavendish.
Thank you. So next slide, please. So the hub is jointly sponsored by NRS and Babcock, NRS being the Nuclear Restoration Services. That's an amalgamation of what was Dounreay coming together with former Magnox, and we report into the NDA. And through that partnership, we get to cover both civil and defence nuclear within Scotland. We have two executive sponsors, John Grierson, who's Managing Director of Single Sites in NRS, and Colette McMullen, who is Skills Director at Babcock. So two really key people to help guide us from an executive sponsor perspective. And as you've already met us, myself and Debbie are the co-leads. So the initial focus of the hub has been focused on the central belt of Scotland. You'll realise the map that Dan has just showed as a region, geographically we're quite large, but there's a lot of land and not necessarily as many people, and we are quite dispersed. But when you look at the majority of the civil and defence activity, it is in that central belt area. But we, as I say, we're looking at a hub and spoke approach to take in all the key stakeholders and various partners who we need to over time. Our first task, if you like, has been about setting up the foundations of how we're actually going to operate, and most importantly for Scotland, to understand the political landscape before we go any further. Most of you on the call are probably aware that the Scottish Government takes a slightly different perspective of nuclear, both civil and defence, but probably more overt in its opinions around the defence side of things. And so we've made sure that we're really clear on where we can get advocacy from politicians, and also, you know, what's in and out of scope to talk about as well. But all the time mindful that what we're focused on here is creating good quality, well-paid jobs within Scotland, and building and maintaining a supply chain of roles and experience for people in the area. So it's important that we have that in order to position the hub well, and it will also include any specific sector milestones that we need to consider as well. So that work is well underway already. Next slide, please. So in terms of how we operate, we have a steering group that's been set up, and that's a core team that has both myself and Debbie and a key small group of SMEs covering both the political landscape, comms, people and skills. And at the moment we're meeting on a fortnightly basis, although we flex this up and down depending on the need of where we've been at, and that's working very well. We have garnered a lot of interest, which is fantastic. Lots of people have been in touch with Debbie and myself saying, oh, we hear you're setting up a hub in Scotland, we'd be really interested in being involved. But what we're doing is keeping to quite the discrete group at the moment, whilst we get ourselves established. So it is restricted membership, but we have included one or two extra people in the last few weeks as we've seen suitable. So I'm now going to hand over to Debbie.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So for us, we have positively moved at pace. We are absolutely highly motivated because we know that we need to get to a position of launching officially the Scotland Hub. So what we've done when we've met in person, we've agreed actually what's going to be our achievements and what are we going to go after. So for us, our focus will be career switchers. So that's actually looking at people coming in to the hub to actually be skilled in terms of either upskilling, or it could be from a recruitment and doing some accelerated learning. So we're looking at the career switchers. We've also had Dan's colleague, somebody called Maddie, who has come to our meeting to really discuss with us, okay, how can they help from a career switchers perspective. We are also going after the early careers, what we call the clearinghouse concept. So that's where we're going to be working closely with Destination Nuclear. And our intent is for any early careers that apply for any of the both civil and defence nuclear enterprise, we are going to be sharing resource so that, again, we can keep the skills in Scotland. And really, what's going to really underpin everything for us will be the data. So this week there will be, or there is a workshop going on, so we are going to be receiving updated data. So the plan will be for Heather and I to take this back into our next meeting to say, okay, what are the skills disciplines that we are really going to focus on? And everything we do will be data led. Next slide, please. So this is just a very high level overview, and I just want to say thank you to Faith Simpson, who is working very closely with both Heather and myself as our project lead. Faith was instrumental in pulling this together, and it's our level 0 milestones. So you can see here we have got a hub operating framework that we will be signing off next month. We want to ensure that we've got a real clear comms plan, particularly picking up on what Heather said from the political sensitivities. We're aiming to hold a launch event around about October time. We do have a venue in mind, and we're just getting that finalised, so there will be more information to come. I've discussed the career switches, so that's something that we're looking at, and obviously the early careers. And then underpinning all of this and the enablement is ensuring that we have got a clear strategy, and also the data, like I said, does the talking for us. So that's just a quick overview. If you've got any questions about the Scotland Hub, or if you're interested in joining, please feel free to reach out to Hannah. I know there's going to be an email at the end, but also Heather and I are around to answer any questions. So on that note, I am going to be passing over to Fiona, who will be given a Midlands update.
Thanks, Debbie. Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Firstly, I apologise. I am in an open office, so I will ask people to be quiet if I need to. But yes, my name's Fiona Barton. I work for Rolls-Royce Submarines. I'm a capability manager. I cover a range of things, but major on skills and training. So if we go on to the next slide. So we are also in an early stage, like the Scottish Hub, so a forming stage. Rolls-Royce is the prime sponsor of the Midlands Hub. But we did have our first meeting last week. So on the screen are the logos of the various companies that supported that first meeting, and also some early supporters. Formal membership of the hub is pending. This isn't everyone that we've spoken to, so if you don't see your org on that and you have had a conversation with me, I've not forgotten about you. This is just a good proportion of who attended, and to show you the range. So the organisations with the requirements, the organisations that can help with the skills and the training provision, and some key coordinating bodies, whether that be a nuclear regional collaboration or a local regional authority. So we expect we expect this to grow. We've yet to put in place how we organise ourselves, but I have a session tomorrow. We'll be digesting the content of the workshop last week and developing the forward plan. I should point out that at the moment the hub is being led in partnership with Rolls-Royce and Atkins Realis. So it'll be Atkins that I'll be catching up with tomorrow. If we go on to the next slide. So how we operate, so in development at the moment, but I wanted to use this slide to really draw out a key point here, is that key to the success of the Midlands hub will be making sure that we've got productive collaborations with some of the groups in the region who have already identified skills investment, and sometimes within the nuclear sector already as a priority for the region. And I've just got a selection of those groups on the screen there. For example, the Infinity Park Derby Board. Infinity Park is a location in South Derby, which has a future vision of a new nuclear cluster where it will major on becoming a centre of excellence for skills. It's where the current Nuclear Skills Academy, a collaboration between Rolls-Royce and the University of Derby, is based. The Midlands Nuclear Board, chaired by Lord Ravensdale, who have been working closely with in the setup of the Midlands Hub. The UK Fusion Skills Council, led by UK AEA and a number of a wealth of other organisations, and our combined county authorities are quite key to us as well, both who have identified skills as a priority focus area. So that's really key for us, and being efficient in our operation as well. If we go on to the next slide, so what have we achieved to date? So we did have a formal launch to raise awareness back in November last year. That's the photo on the left just there. So that was supported by the Deputy East Midlands Mayor, Councillor Nadine Peatfield. We also had Mark Rouse there, you can see in the middle, and my boss right there on the left, Steve Layton, who represents Rolls-Royce on the Nuclear Skills Delivery Board. Lynn Matthews, who leads up Destination Nuclear, and Warren Manning in the back there, Provost, University of Derby. So that was a very successful launch, very well attended, raised awareness, and enabled us to have a good support at our first meeting last week, which is there on the right. There's all of us. So apologies for the typo on the screen there, but that was a very useful session. We had a full day session. The morning was a bit of an alignment one, and then the afternoon was a workshop where we identified additional stakeholders or groups or collaborations that would be good to work with and amplify what we're trying to do, developed our initial thoughts on what we'd like the priorities to be, and how to kind of maximise the impact and minimise duplication, recognising that there's lots of collaborations who have similar priorities. So if we move on to the next slide. So next steps really are kind of some obvious ones really, to formalise that early support into some membership, much like the Scotland Hub, develop what our operating framework is and our future strategy and forward plan, and the work on that starts tomorrow. We're also in a beneficial position where one of our key sort of membership groups, Midlands Nuclear, have already commissioned a regional nuclear skills needs and gap analysis study, which concludes next month. So that study, along with a few others, give us a really good running start on data for the region, which we'll use to help form our priorities. We also do have some regional EMIS, East Midlands Investment Zone funding, to examine the case for a second nuclear skills academy in the region. What form that could take is totally up for debate at the moment. So that's something that will become a project which we'll look to shape within the hub. And the images on the bottom really are just I just wanted to use this platform to highlight. I mean, obviously all the other hubs would say the same, but I'll just fly the flag for the Midlands. But we've got a fantastic opportunity in the Midlands. We've got such strengths in the field of nuclear, and we've got such fantastic opportunities across such a range. Everything from hosting the Nuclear Skills Academy in the north of the region. We're going to host the first fusion step prototype reactor. We're designing and developing SMRs in the region. We're designing and developing and making parts for the nuclear propulsion program. We're also designing and researching microreactors in the region, and then right over on the eastern coast, we've got a potential GDF facility that's being discussed over in Settlethorpe. So we've got a huge span, a huge range. So we really do want to use the hub to drive the skills investment that we need to really realise the future ambitions of the Midlands region. And with that, I'll conclude, and I am handing over to Nick Hennessy, who's going to take us through the South West Hub.
Thanks, Fiona. Good afternoon, folks. My name is Nick Hennessy. I'm the South West Regional Hub Lead. So I'm employed primarily by Babcock, like a few people that have spoken already. I'm on secondment. I'm a project manager by trade, and actually feel really privileged to be a part of this programme when the opportunity originally arose. The chance to get involved and meet the challenge of the skills gap in the nuclear sector in the UK for civil and defence nuclear. It really struck a chord with me, and I think the programme of work that we've stood up nationally and delivered by the regions, it's something that has a potential to touch a lot of people's lives and really support that national endeavour. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what the South West Hub have been doing over the course of the last 12 months to support that. Next slide, please, Hannah. So who are we? Essentially, we are made up of 3 pillars of membership. We've got our NSEC organisations, which have already been spoken about. We've got our training providers in kind of HE and FE, National College for Nuclear Institute of Technology, and right across all the training and professional bodies there. And then we've got a set of stakeholders across the Southwest, which runs from the Southwest Peninsula, so Devon and Cornwall, over as far as Aldermaston near Reading, picking up the atomic weapons establishment, and as far north as Gloucester, picking up Albury and Barclay. So regionally, geographically and economically, very diverse, and a number of different stakeholder groups within that. Dan's already talked a little bit about the fact that there's already a number of collaborations that go on within the region. If we think about the stakeholder groups, every local and regional authority has already got its own response to the skills plan. This is a collaborative endeavour, and it's about us working together to deliver the NNSPS, but also working out where we can work collaboratively and where we can complement the initiatives that are already in flight across the region. So we spent a bit of time. We've been mobilising this year. We're one of the pilot hubs along with the Northwest, and we spent a bit of time working out exactly what it was that we wanted to do. So our purpose, which is enduring, is really there to drive actions from that national plan, the NNSPS, and our vision. What's it going to look like when we get there? Well, it's to provide everybody in the Southwest an opportunity to access the work within the nuclear sector, civil and defence in the Southwest, enabling the delivery of those civil and defence nuclear commitments. And our mission, what does that look like? That's our plan to get there. It's creating I'm not going to read that verbatim, but it's essentially creating the conditions that will allow us to deliver that plan via a collaboration of those working groups between the NSEC organisations, between the learning providers, and between and working with those stakeholder groups, and to deliver against our objectives, which I'll come on to in a little bit more detail shortly. And then just some values which help us understand how we want to operate, how we will treat each other within the collaborative endeavour, and how we will treat those that we come into contact with along the way. Next slide, please, Hannah. So how do we operate and how will we deliver? Well, back when we fully stood up at the beginning of last summer, we spent a bit of time defining our KPIs and what we wanted to achieve in that first year. And they were broadly centred around, again, setting up the a collaboration that enabled us to get the best out of our members. These are the people that understand the challenges in the skills domain. So we've spent time setting up an operating system in terms of a project delivery method, so that we can break down and understand the things that we want to deliver and the actions that we're going to take to do that. A governance board which sits around that, a communications plan, and a strategy. The South West Hub delivers, as it says there on the screen. We've got demand and supply optimization. The optimized training landscape provides a common course and a delivery mechanism for that national plan. And a high-level team of myself as a lead, working closely with the South West Hub chair, she's Colette McMullen, and working in collaboration with our anchor institutes, education institutes, for further education in City College Plymouth and Bridgewater and Taunton. We've got a number of universities which we work with in the region. Most recently onboarded Bristol and Plymouth Uni and Exeter Uni, who've been with us from the start. Next slide, please, Anna. So what have we been busy doing over the last 12 months? So primarily focused on mobilising, creating the conditions to start delivering that plan. So that strategy and the operating framework that I talked about. We held a launch event back at the start of the year for the South West. That's primarily focused on widening the scope and ensuring that we're getting the reach across the region and engaging the people that we need to help deliver that, and we understand the best value from either side to allow us to do that. And we, as I say, established those KPIs back at the start when we stood up, which we've now delivered against. We're now starting to exit our pilot phase and going into an evaluation period, which will conclude at the end of March, ready to spin up into delivery in the new financial year. And we spent a period of time just in discovery mode, which was really important, helping us to understand who those other stakeholder groups were, and some of those other collaborations, some of which have got a similar scope, some a more broader scope, but allowing us opportunity to collaborate with them on understanding the challenge. So relationship building, establishing that charter, and agreeing between ourselves what it is, who we are, and what it is we're going to do, and getting our messages out there via the launch event. A couple of key deliverables that we've achieved in the last kind of 6 to 8 months. One of the things that we've done is to stand up a 20 credit module for the nuclear fundamentals with Plymouth Uni. So that'll go live in September. So that's going from a standing start to creating a curriculum ready to deliver in the new academic year. It's significant because it's been delivered via the result of collaboration with the university, so our learning providers and our NSEC members, which I talked a little bit about before. So in this case, the Ministry of Defence and Babcock, and it'll be delivered via that kind of trilateral approach as well, with some lecturers and expertise provided by the university, and expertise by the Ministry of Defence and Babcock delivering content as well. Back in September, we opened a new facility, the Engineering and Nuclear Skills building over at City College in Plymouth, and again, it's just providing us with the resources and the capacity to deliver against our commitments, particularly there helping to underpin the commitment of doubling apprentices in the nuclear sector. And again, over on the right there, creating the conditions for delivery. So shared working environment, learning from experience process, which is really important for us as a group, allowing us to leverage that expertise within our hub, and delivering the doubling of the apprentices and the graduates. And establishing a process for onboarding new members, which I think Dan's going to talk a little bit more about later on. Next slide, please. Okay, so just to sum up, next steps for us, we've got a data pilot for us to understand a little bit more about the journey of people working in the nuclear industry. Where do they come from? What's the experience for them once they're in role? What can we learn from it? STEM outreach engagement and career hub engagement to help underpin those numbers. We've got our national workforce assessment, which is an understanding of supply and demand in our sector, results which will be coming out and helping to help set our priorities for the next 12 months. Simplifying the regional effort through the connection of the stakeholder group. So again, just working out where we can complement those other initiatives that are up and running. The clearinghouse for apprentices and graduates, which Debbie has already touched on. Essentially delivering and driving that NNSPS forward over the next 12 months. Okay, thank you very much for your time and for listening to me. I'm going to pass on now to Nicola, who's going to talk to us about the Northwest Hub.
Good afternoon, everybody. Yes, Nicola Bacon. I'm on secondment to the NDA from one of our subsidiary companies, Nuclear Transport Solutions, and I'm at the NDA to deliver on the National Skills Nuclear Plan, not just from a regional level, but also from Northwest and from a NDA group perspective as well for all our subsidiary companies. Next slide, please, Hannah. Okay, so who are we? The main employers and education partners are kind of listed in this slide here. Now, it kind of looks as though there's only kind of a few members, but in terms of some of the universities and college providers, they're there to speak on behalf of the Northwest education providers as well. So therefore, we've got one kind of voice representing many. There's certainly quite a bit more work to do to ensure we've got the full voice in the room, but essentially we've started with that in mind rather than kind of be overpowered by the number of voices and not quite sure where our delivery was coming from. Next slide, please. So how do we operate? We were established in 2024. We have executive co-chairs from NDA and BAE, and this is primarily to ensure we've got leadership from defence and civil nuclear. So Paul Ethel from BAE leads from defence, and David Vinell, the group people director from NDA, are our executive sponsors. And it's led by myself from NDA and a lady called Rachel Vlodzak from BAE. Membership consists of educational and industry leads, and it will continue to grow as time goes on. We have meetings quarterly, and they take place face-to-face and on Teams as appropriate. And we also have set up a subgroup that meets on a monthly basis just to ensure that what we decide at a strategic level actually has a tactical implementation plan that's output focused rather than just meeting and kind of talking around the plan and what needs to be done. So in terms of where that fits in the whole national picture, we've got the Northwest Working Group, which is our monthly conversation with many people who are kind of stable members, but also we invite people in dependent on what subject matter we're trying to deliver, just to ensure we can be output focused and just focus on one element until we get more established. We've got the Northwest Hub Steering Group, which is the one led by David Vinell and Paul Ethel, to ensure we've got that strategic direction and to provide support and guidance where it's needed or things aren't moving as quickly as they should. We've got the Regional Hub Coordination Meeting, which is us as a set of hubs coming together to ensure that we can talk about where we've got commonality and where we've got differences, just to make sure we're all aligned on what's being done in which region. We've got the programme review in terms of the national deliverables, so we can understand at a national level what's happening and kind of feature, where does that sit from a regional perspective. The Nuclear Skills Delivery Board and the Nuclear Skills Executive Committee, which Dan talked around earlier. So we can see that seamless link between all of the different kind of regional areas all the way up to that national picture. Next slide, please. Okay, so we have been in operation for approximately 12 months. And as we brought everybody together on that first occasion, we talked around what was it as a region that we wanted to achieve. So not necessarily putting the national plan to one side, but just kind of focusing on what did we need. So as a result of that, we came up with what we're calling 13 strategic anchors. Now, clearly, as a hub, we couldn't go after all of those at the same time. So the first thing that we did was kind of look at the regional kind of anchors, look at the national anchors, and then just match which were aligned and which weren't. And then say, well, which was more important to us as a region, as a starter for 10 in that first kind of 6 to 9 month area, and where would we like to be this time next year as we've completed this current financial year. So if I just to draw a couple of them in terms of what was important to us. So number one, a consolidated resource demand signal, outlining both the criticality and the volume of the skills. And as we stepped into that, what we actually found out is we could take a long-term view of what was needed, but as a result, we identified where we was having resource issues on the short term. So it gave us some rich, intelligent data to say, as we step forward, we need to be doing some things in the short-term basis as well as the long-term. And those skills didn't necessarily align with the national plan. So that allowed us as a region to do something that really focused on what we needed to do. And I'll kind of come into that in more detail. There were things like instructor strategy, which kind of sits into kind of the sector experts into training elements. So we've worked closely with the National College for Nuclear to ensure that we've got what we need from a Northwest perspective and help deliver and support that pilot. And if I can just bring out another one, sharing and subsequently leverage our social impact strategies. So we were sharing information, and certainly as we've stepped into the sponsorship element of the national plan and what we needed as a region, we've been able to collaborate better in terms of how we support each other. I'll kind of pause it there, and then people can always come back with questions. Next slide, please. Okay, so some of the successes and achievements today. So if I kind of move to the left through to the right, I talked about us wanting to understand the skills landscape from a Northwest perspective. And as we understood that, we could really see that for each of the businesses, we needed to put more emphasis on project management, on the commercial side of skills, and the engineering side. So what we actually did as a region, we reached out to all our businesses to say, well, are there some case studies that we can use and promote them on Destination Nuclear websites so people could see the types of careers and the types of people we had within our businesses. So we've worked quite closely with Destination Nuclear to achieve that. And certainly there are plans for the future to capitalise on that. Another element of what we've achieved is working in partnership with Department for Work and Pensions. So essentially, it was a strategic partnership for the Northwest. We've upskilled the work coaches around entry-level roles into the nuclear sector, so they can work with people who they call their clients to ensure that they understand what nuclear is and the types of role that might be available. So this will work in kind of in two veins. One in terms of an attraction and a recruitment to entry-level roles, but also educate people that nuclear is there as an option and it isn't as specialised. You need to be kind of a real nuclear physicist to come on board, and there are many, many roles that can actually people can be employed in. And we're certainly receiving a lot of positive feedback from this and the central DWP policy team. So the ambition is to kind of roll that out nationally. There's still some more work to do regionally, but that ambition is certainly there, and we're getting lots of interest in that regard. The third one is the sponsorship intake. I mean, 3 organisations came to the table in terms of putting these sponsorships in place. which were focused on social mobility and really trying to attract pupils who wouldn't ordinarily go to university to a scheme that would put them through university education. And where we've seen the benefit of this is working collegiately in this space has allowed us to retain some students who may not necessarily get security clearance in one organisation, but may in another. So therefore, we've been able to flex who get us to which organisation just because of security issues in certain organisations. And then what we've also done is been able to look at the data sets across the region to understand, how many graduates and apprentices are kind of there from a Northwest perspective. So strip it back from what our companies are doing on a national basis and look at it from a regional perspective, just to understand that particular picture. So next slide, please. So in terms of next steps, I mean, these are very tactical next steps about what we've been doing to date and where we need to take things for the future. But certainly work in partnership to ensure successful delivery of sector experts into training, make sure we're all going in the same direction with the same aim in mind. Understand totality of regional secondments and promote interchange. There's a lot of work going on to get employees to sign up to the interchange charter, but independently of that, there's a lot of work going on in the secondment space that we should be understanding and trying to say, actually, independent of interchange being at that national level, we've got successes kind of organically happening. Delivery of the national programme on behalf of organisations. I think in the Northwest, we've been really active in that national space just to ensure that we take responsibility for some of the delivery of that. Deliver cohort 2 sponsorships and monitor cohort 1 success. So we're certainly moving into the next cycle now and learning from experience on how we can get better. We want to validate recruitment and retention statistics between nuclear companies. So are we actually attracting into the sector, or are we kind of moving people around? And certainly in the Northwest, we've got some organisations coming to the table for us to try and understand in more detail what that looks like. Use destination nuclear as a mechanism to promote Northwest as a region, and then promote and embed the DWP education session. So that's kind of us as a region, and I'll pass back to Dan now. Thank you.
There we go. Brilliant. Thank you so much. And I can appreciate there's quite a lot in there. And I've seen a few questions come in, but I'm sure there's a number of conversations that people are having internally in their minds thinking, wow, there's quite a lot to digest, particularly given where you might be in the country and how you might engage. So I think if we could just pop to the next slide, please, Hannah, because a fair number of the questions focus on how to get involved, and that's absolutely understandable, and indeed one of the main purposes of today's conversation. So I'm just going to spend a little bit of time on that, which hopefully will help, and we will share some contact details afterwards as well. So so as part of the sort of the national coordinating role, as we come together that regional group, we've established a number of different processes that help to kind of standardize how hubs are going to mobilize and operate and support the implementation of new hubs, and sort of some consistency for perhaps members of those organizations as well. And this is probably the most pertinent one you've got on the screen today, which is about applications to join an existing hub. And so the process really is, I'll boil it down for you, is that essentially there's a performer that an organisation would fill out that asks for some information about who you are, what your involvement is with skills in the region, how you want to engage in the hub, what you believe you can bring to it, what might be unique in that sense, and perhaps how you might have operated in sort of the skills environment so far. That's assessed by the leads, of which you've heard from number today, and then by the hub members themselves. And after that, organisations would be invited to join the hub on a sort of a scale of different categories, starting at the top, which is full membership to the hub, all the way down to the bottom, which will be, at the moment, it perhaps isn't the right time for it, come back at this amount of months and let's see where we are. We're just in this phase of delivery. This isn't the right point. And there's a number of steps in the middle of that, one of which is around just being part of communications and just being about part of general updates. So that's the way you would approach it. And to start that ball off, that ball rolling would be to reach out to the specific lead of the hub that you're wishing to join. So I guess if you're listening to this and you're thinking, I really want to be part of it, then that's the next step afterwards. So if we can go on to the next one, Hannah, because I think that might give a bit of the contact details. Yeah, here we go. So there's a lot of other ways you can keep in touch with what we're doing within the National Skills Plan, regardless of whether or not it's joining a hub or otherwise. So you've got the LinkedIn page, and I mentioned that at the beginning, an active page. Please do engage with that, see what's going on, like and share what's going on, and share it around your networks. Within this webinar, I'm delighted to say we've hovered around 140, 150 people throughout the whole almost an hour, which is absolutely brilliant. And that's a great way of sharing what we're doing and getting that message out there. So again, thank you for joining us for that. But through those socials, it will go even further. The Destination Nuclear campaign itself and the website that has, again, is about the messaging and the direction of travel for the programme, and linked to it is a careers portal, which is where jobs are available for member organisations who've signed up to it to post and for people to look at and make their interest. There was a question in the chat around, I've seen this as the 4th webinar in a series. How do I find out about future ones? The best way of doing that is to sign up to the newsletter. So you can see we've got a link there, which we'll share as part of these slides after the meeting. Please do follow that through, put your details in, and where possible, make it relevant for which sort of area that you're interested in. And that's the best way of sort of finding out what's going on. That email address in the bottom right there in bold, that's the one, that's the sort of the central mailbox for you to send any specific questions or any specific applications that you want to make for joining a specific hub. And what we'll do with that as they come in is direct them to the right lead so that can be taken further, conversations can start, and you can start to fill out that paperwork that I mentioned previously, if we're at the right stage to do that, and that's applicable in that conversation. So that's the best way of taking it forward. Just go on to the next one, please. Right, so we're now at Q&A point. So we have had a few come in. Hannah, I think I'm handing over to you for this one to call them out. Is there any that we've had a few votes on that have jumped to the top?
Yeah, one I was just going to reply to myself on obviously how you've just mentioned how people can sign up for future webinars, but somebody's asked where the other webinars are. So they are hosted on our YouTube channel. I will share the link to that when I send the follow-up with this webinar with the recording. So you can go and view all the previous webinars that you want to have a look at. Let's have a look at some of the other questions. Someone's asked about a hub discussion for the East of England. Don't know if you want to answer where we're up to with that or future plans for future hubs.
Yes, yeah, let me pick that one up. Yeah, thanks, Hannah. Yeah, and I saw there was a question in there about if I'm not part of a hub, what the benefits of it and how and perhaps what's been missed out on. So I think, so as we talk through today, we're in sort of year one of the delivery of the National Skills Plan, and we've seen 2 hubs that have been piloted this year, the Northwest and the Southwest, and we're mobilising now in the early stages of 2 more, and we're really sort of starting to understand the sort of the benefit of that. These hubs are driven by the membership of the Nuclear Skills Plan, so by the NSEC organisations who have recognised the demand in those regions and have taken the action to pull together organisations, and that can be quite resource intensive, particularly at the start, to try and reach out and form those groups. And you heard some recent examples of how that's happened, and it is driven by the NSEC organisation. So in those areas the demand has been clear, and that's how they've driven it forward. We do recognise, however, that there are a couple of gaps in terms of where there's clusters of nuclear activities within the UK that are currently not part of where we're covering, particularly the southeast and in Wales, and we're having active conversations in both of those areas about how we might be able to approach it. Looking for a sponsorship, looking for an NSEC organisation, preferably, to drive that forward, to resource that hub, to chair and lead that hub. But if that isn't the case, that doesn't mean the conversation is over. And I'm having active conversations with organisations in both of those areas about how we might be able to go about that, how we might be able to link conversations that are happening in nuclear skills in those areas to what we're doing centrally, regardless of whether or not there's a specific hub established. So early stages, but please do reach out if you work in those areas and you're keen to get more involved to me, and I'm very happy to have a conversation separately about that.
Lovely, thanks, Dan. There's a question from Molly, who's asking where the future numbers come from, and require any future breakdowns of particular skills or civil versus defence. I think the numbers that drove the workforce at the start.
Yes, yeah, good question. That I did see. I think I saw another one as well about asking for the breakdown. So yeah, that's a good question. So the numbers come from what's described as the Labour Market Intelligence survey through the Nuclear Workforce Assessment. So that's an annual survey that draws in data from member organisations across a whole raft of data sets to kind of pull that together to provide the answer to that question. So that's where it comes from. Is it available in the breakdown across critical skills, across defence and civil? Yes, it absolutely is, and the detail is available within that. Actually, it's quite hot off the press. Actually, the latest survey information has only recently been compiled and evaluated, and is due to be sort of launched and publicised over the next couple of weeks by the end of this financial year. So yeah, the headlines are due to be shared shortly, which will influence how the plan is progressing, what benefits and have happened in only the early sort of emerging stages, and perhaps where we might prioritise activities into future years. But yes, the answer to your question is absolutely labour market intelligence information online. That's the data that drives the plan.
Lovely. Just on the new workforce assessment that's coming out, I do have a sign up link to register to receive that new report when it does get published. So again, I'll include that in the follow up, so everyone can have access to that future one you've just mentioned, Dan. We've got a question for Nicola come through. Can you expand on the project to coordinate education outreach, please?
Yeah, of course. That's still in its early stages, to be honest with you, because it wasn't classed as one of our 4 priority areas. But what we've started to do, certainly as an NGA group, is understand what we've got in place as a set of businesses, and then we can share that wider with the Northwest. So if there's anybody who's kind of got an interest in that, by all means, get in contact through the means, and then we can take that forward as and when we pick it up in a bit more detail.
Lovely, thanks, Nicola. I think we've got time to squeeze one more question in, Dan.
Go for it. It's a quick one.
Okay. So there's a question from Adrian about the regions that don't have a skills hub. I know you've already just mentioned about the future hubs that we've possibly got in the planning, but what specific benefits or opportunities are those regions missing out on that don't have a hub, and what can they do about it?
Quick one, Hannah. Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think Adrian, we might have spoken before as well. I think that's a good question. The devil's in the detail with that one a little bit, and I think it might be worth kind of understanding the kind of organisations that you're representing there, and perhaps the area that you're sort of focusing on, since training provider, supplier, delivery, and then understanding how best to plug into it from that. But while the skills plan, we're focusing here on regional outreach, I guess, through the hubs. The plan is national, and it's in the first phase, but we're looking to support and enable the attraction and retention of nuclear skills broadly across both civil and defence. And so wherever organisations can engage with the plan, we would welcome that. And so again, best place is have a conversation, and we can start building the the best way of doing it. That probably just leaves it with me then, Hannah, if that's okay. Just to again thank people for staying with us, and yeah, some great questions in there as well. And we will follow up, like Hannah said. Thank you to everyone who would join the webinar today, and please go back and share the message around your teams. For those that want to engage further with it, do. Big thank you to everyone that presented today, from Heather, Debbie, Fiona, Nick, Nicola. Really appreciate your time and effort to put those slides together. So thank you very much. And Hannah, of course, as well, for yourself for pulling this together and making it all work. A lot of effort behind the scenes. So yeah, thank you. So I think that's us for today. Really good conversation. Look forward to taking it further. But for now, do enjoy the rest of your day, and speak again soon. Thanks, everyone.